Good evening and welcome to tonight's special event. Tyndale House Publishers is pleased to invite you to this conversation between two notable Tyndale authors. First, New York Times best-selling author Francine Rivers, author of the iconic novel Redeeming Love, as well as classics like the Mark of the Lion series and her most recent release, The Masterpiece. She is joined tonight by T.I. Lowe, a bright new voice for Tyndale. Her Southern fiction novel, Under the Magnolias, just released. Hosting tonight's discussion will be Karen Watson, publisher for fiction at Tyndale House Publishers. Karen?
Hello, everyone. We are so glad you've joined us tonight. And I am delighted to have this opportunity to introduce you into two very fun women who have a lot of fun things to say and talk about, and just invite you into just to overhear our conversation just a little bit. And I hope that I'll think up some questions that you wish you could ask, but there is a place to submit some questions as well. If we just run out of time or go to sleep or we just bore ourselves, we'll look up some questions and find some things to ask you. But I just want first to just give each of these authors a chance to say hello. Francine, you want to just give a little shout out?
I'm out here in Northern California in the nice weather. I guess it's a little cooler right now. It was 90 plus degrees the other day.
Yeah. And Tanya, tell us, Tanya here is looking fresh as a daisy straight from the ball field.
Yeah, I came in on two wheels. I got here though, and I'm all the way on the East Coast, South Carolina, and it was actually cooler here today too. We finally got some rain, but that was yesterday, and today it was a little chilly. But yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Good. One thing I want to say to those of you who are listening in, it is not too late to text your friends or call them and tell them to log on, because the registration is still open and they can log on at the last minute if they haven't, even if they haven't registered, they can do that quickly and join us, because there's going to be prizes, opportunity for prizes, and just sparkling and enjoyable conversation. So, take a minute, call your friends, or I hope that some of you are sitting there with a room full of friends and using I hope I'm not on a big TV. So, okay. I prefer to not be on a big TV. I don't know about you guys.
Can't imagine.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about what some of our prizes are. We're going to give opportunity for 10 people to win an advance reader copy of Francine's next novel. We're going to talk about that later a little bit, but you would get first read. 10 people will get a first read before the book is published. So that's a pretty good prize. 5 people.
Can I get into that?
I don't know. I don't know. I think we'd have to call foul on that. I don't know. But you might could talk to her agent. I heard you know.
Yes.
I know pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. And for Tanya, we're going to give away 5 box sets of her Carolina Coast series. So it has 3 books in it. That's great. So 5 of those sets. And then our grand prize winner will get our Under the Magnolias swag box.
Ooh.
It includes all kinds of 80s swag, beautiful, fun things, candy, whatever, plus a hardcover edition of Under the Magnolias. So there's a place over there on the side where you can register to make sure to enter the drawing. And so make sure that you take time to do that. And also there's a place for you to look at Francine's entire list of books and look at Tanya, the webpage for Tanya's book, Under the Magnolias. It shows you all the places that you could go to buy the book. And we sure hope you will do that. Okay. I think that's all the business. This is like announcements at church. I think that's all we have to do. I think that's all we have to do to get started. Okay, Tanya, I'm going to give you a chance first, and I want to say this. Tanya and I, there were some people at Tyndale that didn't understand Tanya speak, but she and I, they thought we had a Southern accent. I don't know. But we understood each other right from the get-go.
Mhm.
Okay. I would like each of you to talk just a little bit about one book of the other person. Now, Francine, I know, has written 2 of Tanya's books, and I know that Tanya has some thoughts. So if you were
I'm
going
going
to
to pick one.
if you were going to tell us about one book,
Okay.
pick one and tell us about it.
Well, I'm going to pick Under the Magnolias because I love that book.
Well, thank
You know,
you.
I read a lot of books, but I don't save a lot of books, and that one's a keeper, most definitely. You know, the love story between Austin and Vance. But one of the things I loved about it was the first riffraff church, the members of the church, and how they came together at the end. And I think Austin Foster is a character that's going to be remembered for a long time. Just a very heroic young lady.
Well, thank you.
Takes on incredible responsibility. And I think the other thing that really impressed me about the book is David, you know, the father, is really struggling. And I think it's bipolar is what I was getting out of it. And I thought you have such a way of making your reader just feel real compassion and love him despite all the stuff that's going on.
Mhm.
That makes Austin's life so difficult. I mean, you love that man, just like the members of the Riff Raff Church.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good recommendation, I would say.
It's a terrific read.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes. So, like I say, you can find out more about that. But we're going to be talking about this more. But we love this cover. We just love this cover.
I do too.
I know. And this Tanya did not model for the cover, but there are similarities in the way the girls look. That beautiful hair. Okay.
All this crazy hair.
Okay. I would like for you to pick one book to talk about, just a little. We're going to talk about another one. Yeah, pick one.
We can all agree that Francine's definitely the queen of redemption. And I love that she can do it historical and she can do it contemporary. And I can't say enough about the masterpiece. That was, that Roman, he got me from the first page. And I had to know what that scoundrel was going to end up doing. And I just kept reading. I loved how she developed him and, you know, showing us everything he had to go through. And by the time we got to the end of the book, you know, his redemption and how he grew. And I just love that. And I love that Francine can take a messy character and really make you, you know, just feel for him. And I don't know about you, but when I got to the end of it, I was itching to go to the store and get me a couple cans of spray paint. I wanted to try my hand at graffiti. I didn't take any buildings, but I sure did want to. I really like that, Francine, that you know, showcase the art form of graffiti. There's some real beautiful artwork in it, and I was able to meet a graffiti artist and get to try a little down in San Francisco. But it's pretty impressive, some of the stuff that they can do. The murals that they do on the walls can be real art.
Yeah. So that the cover art for that book was really from the graffiti artist that Francine met. And
Cameron Moberg.
Yes. Yeah. And on the back of the book, it shows, you know, the wall where where it actually happened. Yeah, that was so funny, you know, and I will just tell you this little inside thing. When we were working on the cover for this, you know, the process is always, you see a lot of things and you do, you know, well, what about this? How about a little more of that, or not that, or whatever. For this one, there was one version of this cover that had Roman on the cover.
Oh, really? I won't see it.
He's a very handsome man.
I think
and we debated. We really debated. I think
that's
the wiser course won out, because really, I think this had a much broader appeal. But I have to tell you, there was a pause for a moment on that Roman cover. I have to tell you.
Man, I want to see it.
Well, the problem with putting a person on the cover is that, you know, readers come up with their own ideal when they're reading about that person. They create that image in their own mind. So
a lot of times it's not what the author envisions for it.
It's almost never what the author.
I know.
Just tell you, it's almost never that. Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you one of my favorite Francine books is The Last Sin Eater.
Oh.
Yes. I read this book probably 4 times, and I love it so much because for a couple of reasons. One, it's set in Appalachia, but from the first day I read this, Caddy, I thought could be my grandmother because she used to tell me her family was Scotch Irish, and she would tell me the brogue, how her dad spoke to her, and I just always could have imagined her being this little girl in this story. So that's why it's one of my favorites. Nobody asked, but I'm telling you.
That was one of the most fun projects I had because I had no clue what was going on from page 1 on through. It just kind of slowly rolled out. It was a lot of fun writing.
For people who don't know, can you tell what the concept of this story is?
It really has to do with the difference between guilt and conviction. That's the kind of the bottom line of it. That guilt keeps you in prison, but conviction sends you to the Lord. You confess and you receive the forgiveness, and then you experience that restoration. And I think there are many, many people that get trapped in that guilt, and they just never quite get out of it.
Okay, I do want us to talk about redeeming love. Alan mentioned it in his introduction, and redeeming love is it has become an iconic novel, particularly in the inspirational space, because it broke barriers about content and the level of honesty and what today they would call grit in a novel, about the impact on women who read that story. I've never forgotten seeing a young woman at a signing, Francine, when we were in Texas, come to the table holding that book. She had tears streaming down her eyes. She couldn't even talk. And I just thought, wonder what that story is from her, you know. But anyway, that book has just been a gift to the marketplace. And I think it's just interesting now that I think we're seeing sort of children or another generation born out of that. Look at Francine smile. It's like Angel and Michael Hosea are having babies here.
Yeah. You know? Austin and Vance.
Yeah.
That book gave me the inspiration and the courage I need as a writer to be true to my stories. And if it's gritty, it's gritty. So I thank you for that, Francine.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's life. We can't hide from it. It's better to be open and honest, especially as Christians. We need to be presenting life as it is and not how we dream it up to be.
Right.
I appreciate that too, I think.
So redeeming love has something to do with the reason you two are on here together tonight is about, it's sort of about redeeming love, and it's sort of about other things, but I want to let Tanya tell this story about how she came to Tyndale and how these two are connected besides being at Tyndale.
Well, I'm a storyteller. It might be a little long-winded.
That's all right.
I'm going to try to be short and sweet about it, though. But okay. So a lot of people know, but if you don't know, the whole reason why I came out into this whole writing career, people say you fall into things. I pretty much tripped and stumbled and hit my head getting into it. But it was a promise I made to my mom, and she passed away in September of 2013. I had wrote Lulu's Café during my mom's battle with cancer. And she made me promise, she said, Tony, one day you're going to share this. And I said, I will, but just not now. And so 2014, January, after Mama passed, I felt like I fell into a ditch, and I stayed there in that grief for quite a while. And it was like January came around and God said, all right, Tanya, it's time for you to get up. It's time to get up, and it's time to fulfill that promise. I had no idea how to go about publishing a book, but I did a little bit of research. I said, well, I'll publish it independently. I'll just put Lulu's out there independently. And I found Kindle Direct. I did all that, and I didn't tell anybody what I did it. So it was out there in the world, and about a month passed, and we had an ice storm. I was like, well, maybe this is the perfect time to let people know I did it. And so I wouldn't have to face the music. And boy, all my family and my friends, they really rallied around me, but they were wanting to knock me upside the head, like, Tanya, why didn't you tell us you did that? And it just took off from there, and people kept saying, you need to keep writing. And I wanted to keep writing, but I had no idea what I was doing. So people encouraged me, find an agent, you need an agent. So I did all that thing, researching what agent that would represent what I was writing. And I don't know how many I sent out. I'd say hundreds, but it weren't that many. But my storytelling mind, it felt like 100 or so. And then I got a lot of no's. I got a lot of crickets from agents that didn't even respond. And, I can even imagine their inbox on such. But it was summer of 2014, and my phone rang, and it was a call from Illinois. And I was like, well, it's probably spam. And I didn't answer it because I was outside with the kids. And I come back in, and lo and behold, it was a call from Brown and Miller literary agent, President Danielle. And so I was like, holy smokes. So I had to calm myself, and then I called her back. And so back it up just a teeny tiny bit. My friend Lynn Edge, she is a huge, huge Francine Rivers fan. She's probably your top fan. And she recommended, she says, Tony, you need to read Redeeming Love. And so I wanted to, and she let me borrow her copy. And I had read some of it before this phone call. But while I was talking to Danielle, she said, well, I represent Francine Rivers. I was like, well, I'm reading her book at this moment. And so she said, well, send me something. And I sent her one of the books that I was working on. And while I was waiting for her to get back with me, I finished reading Redeeming Love. And I got to the epilogue. Now, I'm going to tell you, I read one sentence and where Sarah and Michael had named their daughter Lydia. And I was like, well, that's my daughter's name, Lydia. How cool is that? The next sentence was about Paul and Miriam, and they named their son Nathan. That's my son's name. I said, all right, that's a God wink. That's God saying, this is where you need to be. This is going to be your agent. I was like, this is a done deal. She's going to call me back any day now. A month passed, I got an email, and she said no. No, I know. God told me you're going to be my agent. I wanted to type that back, but Danielle, she's a classy lady. She didn't have to respond to me the way she did. She could have just, be done with it because she's a busy lady. But she gave me advice. She told me how to build a platform. She gave me some advice on like different groups I needed to follow, like the ACFW, and she also gave me some advice about my writing. I need to learn how to show and not tell so much. So she gave me all this advice and told me to keep in touch. And so I did, but I was bummed. I was like, you were supposed to sign me. I know you are. So that was 2014. And then 2017 rolled around, and I took her up on that offer of keeping in touch. And I emailed her, and she says, well, let's try this. Let's work. Let's do this. And then rolled out around a year, Francine's The Masterpiece was coming out. And I think Danielle had a conversation with Karen about she had someone new while y'all were working together on that book.
Yes.
And Danielle told me not to get my hopes up that might not happen. I'm like, well, I know the God I serve, and it's going to happen. I'm supposed to be with Tyndall House. It just, there's not a lot of times in your life where you feel like you are where you're supposed to be. I mean, because there's a lot of like, is this where I'm, there's a lot of questions, but I just knew without a shadow of a doubt, I am where I'm supposed to be right now.
Well, Danielle did call. We talked about Tanya for about a year. I will tell you that. So she was thinking about it. She said no, she was thinking about it. She was thinking about it. So was I. So
I heard that lady a lot.
Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? That's great. That is great. Well, it's just so been so fun to see how all of this has gone together. And I'm just really enjoying getting this opportunity to put you two together and listen to you talk and see what God's going to do with Under the Magnolias. So that's fun. Before we move off, I want to ask you some other questions, but I do want to talk because I know some of you are curious and I know some of you know that, Tanya was telling us about her dream to be published and we're seeing that dream realized, but Francine has also had a long held dream and it feels like it's really close, close. Do you want to talk a little bit about the movie experience for Redeeming Love and tell us some of that?
Well, it's been a long journey and a number of companies have tried and failed. And I have read a number of scripts and they were written by men and I would feel like they just weren't getting me. They weren't getting the character of Michael. So I wrote a script wanting to show them what I was looking for, and they ended up using that script. And then I worked with DJ Caruso, who's the director, and he's a master at moving things around because you wouldn't want to watch a movie the way the book is, where it's linear and you see all that happens to the little girl up front. So it's moved around, structured differently for the movie. But it's done. It's been done. It was actually finished. The whole shoot was completed 24 hours ahead of the shutdown for COVID. So the movie's just kind of waiting for COVID to go away and the theaters to open back up again. But it was quite an exciting process. Rick and I were able to go to South Africa and watch some of the shoot and meet the actors and the directors and the people involved in putting it together. And it was really exciting to see. The sets are magnificent. The costuming, the actors, the respect I have for them, because we really had to search for the right people, especially for Michael, because you need an actor that can do all the different nuances of emotion and show it in your face. The hard part about a script is that it's only what you see. Mm-hmm. Where with the book, you can be inside their heads and know what they're thinking. Yeah. So that was a challenge, but we have some outstanding actors in the movie. So I have hopes to see it on the big screen someday soon.
Yes. Those of you who are as excited as we are, just continue to pray about that. Yeah. I know that Francine would appreciate that. I'm going to ask you one more question. What was something when you were there at the filming that was the most surprising or?
I think for me, it was walking up the street of Paradise, because it was so much more than I even imagined when I was writing the books. I had sort of this, tent town, just muddy streets and it's sort of a roaring camp type thing. And they built a town. Mm-hmm. They built an incredible Western town. They even built a chapel. And I think it's all still there.
Wow.
But that just blew me away to see that. And you'd look into the stores and the stores were stocked. They had things out on the front. I mean, it was amazing, like stepping back in time and seeing something that, had been in your head, but even better than anything that would have been in my head.
That's great. That is great. Well, I want to, since both of you started your careers in writing romance.
Yeah.
Tanya's first was not so much romance. It was more women's fiction, but a lot of what you've done has been romance. I want you, because I've actually met both of the men in your lives.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me a little bit about your hero, what attracted him to you in the first place, and how he supported your writing. Tanya, you want to go first?
Well, sure. My husband's name is Bernie, and he is, if you've read Lulu's Café, he is my Crowley Mason. Mm-hmm. He's a quiet, gentle man, and I come from a family that was a lot of yelling and anger growing up. And as soon as I felt like I found a peace and Bernie, and we have that peace in our home. We don't yell in our home. We might get a little sharp tone sometimes, but he's calm. He's the one that this whole writing thing. I told him, I said, I feel like I'm led to do it, and he never did that. He's like, okay, let's do it. Mm-hmm. He's a yes dear kind of feller, and he's a sweet gentle man. I have to say that for sure, and he's so dang cute.
He is cute. I'll tell you, he's cute. Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, I know Rick has been a little bit of the push behind, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. Well, I've known him since 5th grade. We were really good friends. And we reconnected when he was a Marine in Vietnam, and I was in college, and my brother was captured, and it came out in the hometown paper. So he wrote to me. My brother was rescued. And he said, you're lucky to get him back. But that started a correspondence. And then when he came home, we were married a year to the day that he had returned to the States. But we've been married going on 52 years. And he, I probably would never have published my first book if he hadn't said, why are you not writing in the evenings anymore? And I said, well, I finished the book. He said, well, where is it? In the closet. I don't think the editor or a publisher is going to come and knock on the door and say, do you happen to have a manuscript in your closet somewhere? It was sort of a send it out, try, go ahead. And then he's been my first editor on almost everything I've written. So yeah, he's always been my support and encourager.
Oh, it's good. That is good. I want to talk a little bit about the hero in Under the Magnolias, Vance.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to tell you, in the beginning, when I was reading about Vance, I wasn't sure if I could trust him or not.
I wasn't either. I kind of wondered, what is this guy up to?
Like, really? Yeah. Is he going to take advantage of this girl? Mm-hmm. Tell me about Vance. Tell us about Vance.
Oh, Vance. I tell you what. Well, we always have the coming of age story about our female lead. And I wanted the coming of age story about old Vance too. He had a lot of growing up to do. And so I intentionally didn't want you to trust him to begin with.
Okay.
I wanted him to grow on you. And because a lot of times you have that instant hero of a book, but I didn't want that. I wanted Vance to come in and later on with his hero dynamics and his characteristics, because he had to grow into them, because he was growing up too. Mm-hmm. So I did intentionally. I wanted you not to trust him.
Okay, good.
That's a good way to do it, though, because it keeps the reader wondering.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, oh, I was completely wrong about this guy. He's turning out to be something really special. Yeah.
There's one thing where I was really mad at him.
Huh?
There is one scene where I was really mad at him.
Yeah, I know which scene you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Where she shows up to a party with all of his fancy friends. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
it puts him in his place.
That's right. And I loved what she said to him. Way to go, girl. She had it.
Now, don't tell too much. You want people to buy the book.
Now, and the thing with Austin too, and a lot of times I always have Lydia, and Lydia, my daughter, she's 14. She's almost 15. How did that happen? But anyway, I always have her in the back of my mind when I'm writing these books, because I want her to see a strong woman, and she don't have to put up with a guy mistreating her or not doing exactly, as he should. And, Austin, she didn't put up with it. She, she was strong about that. And so to me, I feel like I have a job to do with showing Lydia that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 That leads into I'm going to take a little side tour here, a little side trip. You mentioned about writing your first book, Tanya, about as a promise to your mother. Mm-hmm. And then in this book, the mom is a critical part of the book. And when we launched this out, and maybe it's just because we just had Mother's Day, or but I also know, Francine, in your Marta's Legacy 2-book series, it's really about women and about mother and daughter relationships. And I think that's just an important thing. By the way, if you haven't read that series from Francine, there's a free book group guide you can download. It's in over there on the side. It's in all the resources. So click on the resources channel. I think it's over here. But click on the resources. You can download that for free. But can you talk a little bit about the mom in Under the Magnolias, and then I want us to switch to yours, Francine. Talk about the mom here.
Yeah. I think that's me missing my mom when I write when I'm writing that, and I miss my mama. I'll tell you what, when Lulu's come out, I picked up the phone and I called her, and I'm like, she's not. I can't do that, and that hurt. But and every time a new book comes out, she's right there, in my thoughts, and I'm like, I wonder what old Debbie would have said about this one. Or my mama was a character. If she didn't like it, she'd have let you know it. And then, mamas do pass away. But a lot of times, and I've tried to highlight it in like Lulu's Café, and I highlighted it, I think, in a lot of my stories and Under the Magnolias, is there's mother figures that's not blood kin. There's other women, strong women, and they're, how the whole relationship and the bond of women, it doesn't have to be a relative and to be that mother role. So even Austin, poor Austin, she didn't have a clue about mothering 6 siblings, but I feel like she pulled it off. She, even a tomboy, rough as she was, she would mother them with those Twinkies. That's what I would do. A slip you a Twinkie. It's all right.
Which, by the way, in the book club kit, there is a Twinkie salad recipe. Just
Twinkie salad. I mean, it's got salad in the title. You should be able to have it, right?
That's my kind of salad. There you go. Francine, tell us a little bit about Marta's legacy.
Well, the first book, it really has a lot to do with my grandmother and my mother's relationship. So Hilda Mara is very much like my mom, and Marta's very much like my grandmother's. And there was a misunderstanding between the two of them. And I think a lot of times mothers and daughters don't always communicate what's really going on. And what can look like rejection is actually protection and a sacrificial kind of love. And with the second one, it had less to do with personal, I came from the 60s. So of course, Carolyn is the 60s child, and then Mayflower Dawn is her daughter. But it also had a lot to do with the way the generations have looked at faith. That really my grandmother's generation had the idea of, God helps those who help themselves. You do what you need to do. And my mom was, serve and earn your way. My generation was, God is dead, God help me. And then my daughter's generation seems to be more grounded in faith and understanding, I think. So that played into it also. But a lot of it was about just misunderstanding the motives behind how parents, how mothers treat their daughters.
I just think it is so interesting how your relationship with your mother.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know when my mother died, I never felt responsible for my own children. I had 3 kids. But when she died, I'm like, oh, I've got babies to raise.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like she even lived nearby, but there was something about her presence, like you're saying, Tanya, to be able to pick up the phone. And
yeah. I remember doing that. My mom died of cancer, and I remember for a long time feeling like I could pick up the phone and talk to her, and then realize she's not there on the other end of the line anymore. And it was sort of a shock, because you expect them to be eternal forever. And they're busy right now. We'll see them again, but
yes. Investment in heaven is a phrase I think about sometimes. So we're talking about the loss of mother, and then but Austin also lost her father in a way. Can you talk a little bit about that, Tanya, about what was your inspiration for him, and what made you think about him as the driver of this story?
Well, just as we talked about heroes, and you talked about Vance stepping up and ended up being her hero. And, a lot of girls think their daddy's their hero, their first hero. And Austin had to realize her hero wasn't perfect. But because David was a great man, I think, but he was not perfect. And he had his struggles. He had his demons that he had to work through. And I hope people realize that even though, Austin had to realize everything that was going on with her dad, he could still be that hero. He was a hero to a lot of people, but he was just flawed. And he had his struggles with his health, his mental health. And there's a lot that people try to hide. Like I'm hiding a lot behind this poofy hair and lipstick. I mean, there's a lot of flaws. And it's easy for me to come on here, especially when I only have to show you this much. You don't see my COVID weight. It's down here.
We said we were not going to talk about it.
It's like
it's okay. And I hope that people, when they read it, that I've been battling this mental health issue, but I worry what people are going to think about me. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in that, the persona and everything's okay. I talked to someone the other day, and it was almost like, you chop your arm off and it's, you got all this, that's all I'm going to say. And you're like waving around, I'm fine. I'm not fine. And so,
what was neat too about the story is that people were aware, and they loved him and they loved her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she realized that until the end, how much he was loved and how much she was loved, and the support system that was already around her that she didn't recognize and came to recognize later on.
Yeah.
That's the way the church is supposed to be, is like the first riffraff.
Yes.
I love it.
None of them perfect, but they all came together in
absolutely
the love of God. And if you do that, I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's good. Michael Hosea is the ultimate hero.
Yep.
Right? He's the ultimate hero. A man of patience and vision, wouldn't you say? Lots. I'm going to just give a little hint about your work in progress, because we are going to give 10 people an opportunity to win an advance reader copy of Francine's next novel. We're not going to tell you too much about it, but I would like for you to tell us a little bit about the hero in your work in progress that's coming.
Well, the hero of this story is not Michael.
He's not, is he?
No, he's really on a faith journey of his own, because he's been rejected and disinherited, basically, and in a very cruel way by a man he idolized, by his father, and he's lost faith. So it's really, she's a catalyst. The female, the heroine of the story, is a catalyst, because she has strong faith, but she's also experienced rejection. But she doesn't judge God by what men do. And I think a lot of times we do. I know of so many people that have left church because they're hurt by somebody, or the pastor didn't act the way they thought he should. The coach didn't show up to the game, so to speak. Yeah. But there's a difference between rejecting man and rejecting God. So she relies on God through the story.
Now, I will say we do have a title for this book.
Yeah.
Our working title is The Lady's Mine. The Lady's Mine. And it sounds it is a little lighthearted. It's a twist, right, on a very famous story. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, it has a double meaning.
Okay.
Because Matthias is the name of the main character, and Catherine is the heroine. He makes up his mind right from the beginning that she's his. That lady's mine, basically. But it also has to do with her inheritance, and she inherits a mine, and she doesn't realize the value of it until later on, and how that changes the whole town that they're living in.
Okay.
So really, the question that I had, I think this story is based on an old BC book that I looked at, and I thought, there were so many issues in it that I never addressed. It was a simple romance, a steamy historical romance. And I thought I'd like to go back and just redo this whole thing. And it has to do with, can one person impact an entire community? And with God, all things are possible.
Mm-hmm.
She's sort of she is a firebrand. She's a suffragette. She has a mind of her own, and she's fighting for her rights. And so they clash. Let's put it that way.
Clash. But I tell you,
That's fun, though.
I had a lot of fun with this, but I have to say, I turned in the manuscript, and it was so long, I think Tyndale kind of went, ah! I call it my COVID book because I was throwing everything in there and just had so much time to write. That's what I did, is just write. So,
scheduled to release in February of next year, but
Yeah.
God willing, we'll have ARCs before then.
yes.
Like I say, people over there on the side, make sure you register. We're going to pull for 10, and then you can be part of the inside scoop on this one. I want to back up just a minute and ask you, because one of my favorite things, Tanya, in Under the Magnolia was the siblings' names. Clever. You're just too clever. If you've not read this book, okay, how many kids in this family?
7.
7, counting Austin.
Yeah, count Austin.
How many sets of twins?
2.
So 4 twins.
Uh-huh.
So the twins particularly have wonderful names. Can you tell us what they are?
The oldest set, they're Charlotte and Raleigh, and then the youngest is Knoxville and Nashville. Knox and Nash.
Knox. That's not the most clever thing. It's so clever. I love it to pieces. How did you decide that? Did that just come to you because you're smart and sassy, or what?
I needed some more depth. I wanted to invest some more into Austin's mom, and this was a way that I could do it. I wanted the names to be very important to her mom, and I think I said she had a wanderlust, but she never left the borders of the state of South Carolina, and so she would collect maps. And so each child is named after a city she wanted to visit. So that's where that came from. And I was like, there's a lot of kids. How am I going to even make it so the reader doesn't get too confused with them? And I'm like, well, let's just name them all cities.
Yeah. So clever. I tell you, I love it. I love it so much. Maybe because I live in Nashville. Maybe that's part of it. Yeah. But I love it so much. It was just one of my most fun things. Now, I don't know if Danielle's going to let you talk about this. What's next? What'd she say?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit.
Okay, why don't you do that about what you're working on now?
So I love the research part of a new novel, and since I've become a traditional published author, I've realized it's a lot slower process, and I had to learn patience. And I think that's worked in my benefit, because even with Under the Magnolias, I did a lot of research on mental health. I mean, I really dug deep into that part of it. I spent an entire summer doing that. I don't write during my summers so that I could invest more time with Nathan and Lydia, but I do research. And so there was an entire summer of all 80s. I grew up in the 80s, but I still wanted to go back and research that time, because I love historical fiction, but I'm too chicken to write it. I was like, well, I can dip my toe in the 80s and I can feel like I wrote something a little historic there. But the next book I've been doing some research on, and it is looking like it's going to be set all in it's Lowe country, on a sea island off the coast of Charleston. And I'm just intrigued by the research I've been doing on the barrier islands. And Charleston's only 2 hours from me, and my son goes to college in Charleston, so we spend a lot of time there. We went a couple weeks ago to move Nathan's pack up his dorm, and while we were there, I'm not writing. I don't write during my research time. I might journal the characters, but I won't write, go to the computer with it. But I see a scene in a graveyard. So we spent probably 2 hours wandering around this huge graveyard, and the name of it is Magnolia Cemetery. And I was like, how fun will it be for me to mention Magnolia Cemetery and standing underneath a magnolia tree? And I took pictures of me standing underneath one of the magnolia trees. So I'm working on that right now. And I'm also doing research. I want to highlight, just like Francine highlighted, graffiti art. And I really love that about a book where there's something new to learn. And this one's the whole art of indigo dye. And there's a long history of indigo dye in South Carolina. But I've been learning all about that, but I want to highlight it as a contemporary, that there's an artisan that does indigo dyeing. And my dear friend and mentor, Teresa Moise, who I dedicated Under the Magnolias to, she's my running partner. Now, I don't look like it. She's tall and thin, and I am short and chubby. And I tell her that we look like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. And we run around town. We run around town 3 days a week. And I told her, I said, you Arnold, and I'm Danny. So, but she's been listening to everything about indigo lately. And I had a birthday last week, and so look what she gave me.
Oh.
Indigo dye kit. And it's got all the goodies.
Oh.
We get to dye something soon. But and then
Hey.
Oh, wow, nice.
A hand towel. But so I'm diving into that, and it's looking like, I'll say this, it's going to be my Southern take on Beauty and the Beast meets Prodigal Child.
Ooh.
Okay.
So that's where I am with it, and I'm excited about the research and just getting to know the characters. I'm a character-driven writer, so I really invest in a lot of time with my characters. So I'm getting to know them right now, and they're pretty interesting.
One of my favorite things about working with fiction authors is that they have strangers talking in their heads, and they'll talk to you about things their characters said, like they told me this. So whatever.
Yeah.
And with a straight face there.
Yeah.
When we're running in the morning, I'm telling her all about it. So she already knows. Yeah. So she has to hear it. And, with women's fiction, it's normally the women's POV, the heroine of the story. It's in her voice. And just a little weird inside scoop on this one to get into the head of the guy, because I'm not going to be writing I won't be in his head in the book. I'm journaling a whole journal in his voice. So I told my crowd, I said, if you find it, it's not me talking, it's him.
Do you have these journals stacked away somewhere, or do you have say, in case of my death, burn these or give whatever? Have you?
Sure. There's a box in my attic, because I like to write a lot. Even my scenes, when I get to that point, I like to write them long can. But Nathan gave me this when I signed my first contract with Tyndall House. It says notes, TLO.
Oh, that's great.
And then, of course, there's a verse on the back, but a little note from him. So there's stuff in there. But this is Hudson. He's going to be my new character, and this is his journal. And I write sloppy cursive, but his handwriting in my journal is very crisp and in print. And I'm only writing it in black pen because, he's angrily writing.
Oh man.
Yeah.
There's a whole story there. You could have an attic full of all these journals, and it's characters from different novels talking to each other.
Yeah.
That would be so much fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Tracy, do you journal? Do you journal?
I don't journal.
No.
No, I don't. I just write stories and blog, and I write notes, but I don't. I'm a little afraid to journal. I'm not sure I'd want people knowing everything that's going on in my head.
I know. It's a little scary, isn't it?
Yeah, my mom journaled for years, but she did it very carefully because she said you can write something in your journal, and if people are reading, I have all of them, but she was really cautious because she said if you write something about a situation that you're in and somebody that you're upset with, and then it all works out, but you never write about it in the journal, people will tend to believe that, well, they were mad at that person for the rest of their lives. So I always wondered, she'd do these impassioned essays, and I'd think, I wonder who she was upset at at that particular time.
But she wouldn't name them.
No.
That was smart.
No.
Wow. That's interesting. That is interesting. So how old were you when she died?
How old was I?
Mm-hmm.
I think I blocked it out of my memory how old I was. I had children. My dad died in 89. My mom died in 94.
Okay.
They both died of cancer.
Yeah.
So it was just I had 3 children. I was making trips up there, and after she passed away, we moved her down to California. After she passed away, I took her ashes back up to Oregon where they lived, and because their wish was to be mixed together. So they did that. But it was very strange riding up to Oregon with my mother's ashes sitting next to me.
And so when did you get all of her journals?
I got all of her journals when she moved into the apartment in Livermore.
Okay.
We were going through the house, and she said, "What would you like?" And I said, "I want your journals." And she said, she didn't think anybody'd want them. She just thought they'd all go in the trash. And I said, "Nope, that's what I want." So that was my inheritance, her journals.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That is great. Okay, we're going to have about 5 more minutes. I want to remind everybody once again, make sure that you register for our giveaways. 10 copies of Francine's ARCs when they're ready. It'll be a few months, but we will not forget you. If we promise, you'll get them. And 5 copies of Tanya's 3-book sets of Carolina Coast series. And then our big prize is our swag box for Under the Magnolias. And they sent me an email. I promised a hardcover of Magnolias, but it isn't. It's a soft cover. I'm sorry, but still great. It's still great. And all the stuff in there is really, really fun. So make sure that you register on there, and we will notify you. But also, if you click there on the side, you can go to the website that we've created for Under the Magnolias. There's information there there's a playlist for your book group. There's recipes. There's beautiful, all kinds of fun stuff. And then the list of all of the retailers where the book is available. Some places have it on sale at a really good price right now. Not naming any names, but I'm telling you, places that aren't about a river, but a real store. Some of them. Not visit a real store.
Oh, that was sneaky.
I like it.
A real store, and you can go right in there and hold it, and you can just start reading as soon as you're in there, because I promise you there are signed copies in a ton of Southeast Coast Barnes and Nobles. There are signed copies there with book plates. So check out your local BNN and check out just your local Christian stores. Francine, the whole list of Francine's books are there, and you can have links to where you can purchase them. Anybody have one passing, Francine, if you have one thing to say or no?
I'm speechless.
Yeah.
Oh, just that I think this kind of thing is so much fun. One of the things that we learned with COVID is Zoom, to get together and talk to people and see people face to face. And it's a lot of fun to do this.
Really, I'm telling you, authors are the most interesting people. And that has been the greatest gift, one of the greatest gifts in my life, is just to sort of wander into this whole thing. But it's just such fun, fun. And I'm so glad that God crossed your guys' path in a way that only God himself could do. I think that's a really good thing. Tanya, anything you want to say about Under the Magnolias besides go get a copy, please? Get a
copy, please.
Yes, would you?
And Francine is welcome to write the screenplay on that one too.
Okay.
I was just thinking it would make a great movie. Yeah.
Well, there you go. She's been studying screenwriting. I heard she knows people. I heard she does. Well, we didn't get to any questions. I apologize for that, but we will look through your questions and maybe watch for follow us on Crazy for Fiction and Tanya's newsletter. You can sign up. Maybe if she has a really good question, she might answer it in her newsletter or on her blog. Yeah. Same goes for Francine. But we really, really appreciate you guys joining us tonight, and hopefully there'll be another opportunity for us to get together. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure. Thanks so much. Good night.
Good night.